Hello, welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Ruth chapter 3. Then Naomi, her mother in law, said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now, is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor, but make not thyself known unto the man, until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lieth down, that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. And she said unto her, All that thou sayest unto me I will do. And she went down unto the floor, and did according to all that her mother in law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly and uncovered his feet, and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight, that the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, Who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast shewed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest, for all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman. Howbeit, there is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman's part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee, as the Lord liveth. Lie down until the morning. And she lay at his feet until the morning, and she rose up before one could know another. And he said, Let it not be known that a woman came into the floor. Also he said, Bring the veil that thou hast upon thee, and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it on her. And she went into the city. And when she came to her mother in law, she said, Who art thou, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done to her. And she said, These 6 measures of barley gave he me, for he said to me, Go not empty unto my mother in law. Then said she, Sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall, for the man will not be in rest until he have finished the thing this day. Summarizing Ruth chapter 3. Naomi tells Ruth Boaz is a good prospect for marriage. She gives Ruth instructions to approach Boaz in a way that he will be open to viewing her as a wife. She sleeps at his feet, there to comfort him after awaking from his night terror. Ruth clearly states her intentions. Boaz agrees, acknowledging the custom for her closer relative to marry her first. Boaz tells her that if the other relative does not want to fulfill this tradition, that he will. Naomi mentions in the first chapter about Naomi mentions in the first 2 verses about seeking rest. And in Ruth chapter 1 verse 9, this rest was specifically talking about meaning finding husbands. So after her 2 sons die and her husband dies, she's there with her 2 daughters-in-laws, and this is what she says to them. She said that they were good to her, and it was a tearful moment, but she was just telling them is sort of like a blessing, may you find men that will give you rest. So now Naomi is pointing out that Boaz has been giving you a lot of special attention lately. He's winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. And to winnow means to separate, to sift. And a threshing floor is a space for separating grain, a space for dealing with grain. So this is going to be he's a wealthy landowner, so this is going to be a task that he's going to be doing with his business. So Naomi, the woman who's been married before, gives her advice and says, hey, wash yourself, put on oil, Put your clothes on and go down to where he's at, but don't make yourself known until he's done. I feel like that in itself is a whole message. Make sure your hygiene is together. Pay attention to what kind of clothes you wear. And wait until he's had a chance to eat, drink, complete his task before you go in asking him for something. When he lays down to sleep, observe where he's going to be, uncover his feet, and he will tell you what to do next. So Naomi is saying, like, this is how you get the man to view you as a prospect for marriage. Smell nice, look nice, be quiet, and when it's time for him to go to bed, lay there beside him and be willing to take instructions. Naomi has been married first, so she's telling this young girl game. Verses 6 through 7. Ruth went into the threshing floor. She followed Naomi's instructions. Boaz experienced the fear in his sleep, realized Ruth was there. He asks who she is, and she answers, I'm Ruth. And she's asking to spread your wings over your servant. Um, Take me under your wing. So basically, what she's asking is, save me. You are a redeemer. This tradition is when there are widows, the closest male relative is supposed to marry the widow and take over the cost of the property to make sure that these women are taken care of financially. The story of Ruth and Boaz sometimes gets misconstrued as this love story that's about a rich man finding a damsel in distress when they were actually relatives and Boaz was fulfilling a tradition. Naomi just put it in Ruth's mind to get this wealthy relative to consider fulfilling this tradition instead of the other relative who probably is not going to be as capable as Boaz is. So, marriage was, in this case, about money. So, these women weren't expected to have anything. So, that's sometimes why. Okay. So, she says, save me, save me. Verse 10, he's impressed with her directness. And he says, he characterizes this as being kind and that she hasn't gone after young men. He says, don't fear, I'll do all that you ask. Everyone in the town knows that you are a worthy woman. So that's important to this man too. This man that's successful, who's wealthy. It's important the kind of reputation she has. It was important how she approached him. It was important how she presented herself and her reputation among his people. So he's willing to consider this immediately. Yes, it's true that I'm a redeemer, but there's a redeemer nearer than I. So this is the uh, tradition that he's referring to. So the tradition is again for the closest male relative to marry the widow, and there is a relative more closely related to Naomi and Ruth. So what Boaz has to do is talk to this other relative, tell him that he wants to be the one to marry Ruth and take over their property and hash it out with him. So that's why he's saying here, remain tonight. If he'll redeem you, then let him, but if he's not, then I'll do it. Remain here until the morning. So Ruth stays there, but arose before one could recognize another. So I kind of feel like this is my interpretation is that they're trying to make it clear that there was no sexual activity, that she really was just laying down at his feet. He says, "Let it not be known that the woman came." He tells her to hold out the garment that she's wearing, and he pours a good amount of food into her garment. So when she went back to Naomi, she told her what happened with Boaz. And Naomi says, just wait. You need to know how the matter turns out. He's going to settle this today, because Naomi is also aware of this tradition of the closer relative. Great. So, some highlights. The older woman, Naomi, who has been married already, she righteously advises Ruth with good intentions. She advises Ruth how to be a candidate for marriage to Boaz. Sometimes I wonder, okay, I'm not going to say that because it's a little bit insensitive. And I'm unmarried myself, but this is just illustrating more how Ruth and Naomi acted to each other, and the emphasis is on Ruth's temperament, how she presented herself, how she didn't go talking to this man while he was still doing his business, while he was still eating and drinking. And it shouldn't be lost that Naomi, the woman who had already been in a successful marriage, told her, be clean, be quiet, and be there when it's time for him to go to bed. Naomi helps Ruth by pointing out that Boaz is a good prospect for marriage because he's wealthy and he's shown her kindness, and he's a good man. She advises her on hygiene, advises her on how to communicate with this man, to shut up. Also, verse 8 is another point. At midnight, the man was startled, and Ruth was there to comfort him when he was startled. That's all we have for Ruth chapter 3. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I love you. Have a wonderful day.